Welcome to the Mount Pleasant podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
This is the Mount Pleasant podcast. I'm your host, Brian Cleary, and all thanks to the great people of Mount Pleasant Magazine, I get the honor, the privilege of introducing you to Mount Pleasant, the people who make it such a special place to do business, to work, and even to live. We're introducing you to Mount Pleasant's best on the Mount Pleasant podcast. There's so much to love about the town of Mount Pleasant, and one of the things, we all like to eat. We've got such great restaurants all across Mount Pleasant, and we want to introduce you to maybe not one, but two, maybe even three, and give you the details on a new Mount Pleasant restaurant, all here today on the Mount Pleasant podcast. I'm Brian Cleary, and one of our restaurateurs is our guest today. Karen Mennuti-Raju is with the BENE Hospitality Group. And Karen, you've got two properties going right now. The first that people may be most familiar with is Savi Cucina, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And your second restaurant that you opened up, Sommba Cocina, how do you describe that to people who may not be familiar with what that may serve?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a little bit of a play on words. So my husband, who is the co-founder of our hospitality group with me, is a certified sommelier. So obviously he's passionate about wine. So we always love the energy of the Samba dance. And so a little bit of a play on words with the sommelier. So we kind of combined the two. So Samba was born, and the best way to describe it is it's a great Spanish gastrobar. So you can come dressed up for a fancy date night if you want and feel just as home as if you're coming in your yoga pants and enjoying small plates, tapas, sangria, you name it.
So when I think of food and Europe, I think of Italy, I think of France. Spain doesn't necessarily come right to my mind. Maybe it does for other people. But what was it that made you think, Spanish food, let's try that?
Yeah, I think it's really just the passion for the culture there, too, and the amazing wines that come out of Spain that don't necessarily always get the attention that some of the Italian varietals or the French varietals get. When I think of Spain, I think of paella, and we've got some amazing paella at Samba, potatoes bravas, garlic shrimp, all sorts of great Spanish cuisine, chorizo and jamon. So we've got a beautiful slicer. I call it, it's my husband's toy. It's this beautiful red slicer that we slice all of our meats and cheeses to order. So if you come in and order a charcuterie board, it's going to be sliced fresh right there in front of you. So good stuff happening there.
And make the difference so people don't get confused, because some people may say Spanish, Mexican, Spanish, not the case.
Not the case. Absolutely. So Mexican, obviously, Mexican food is very different from Spanish food. Spanish food definitely includes a lot of rice dishes. However, it's prepared in a very different way. Leveraging the ingredients from Spain, when I think about Spain, olives and olive oil comes to mind, and really all of those great things that come from the coast of the Mediterranean in that area. So very different from Mexican, traditional Mexican that you would, black beans and rice and things of that nature.
So this will be kind of like me asking you which of your children is the favorites. But if you were going to pull up the menu from Sommba Cocina right now and suggest to me, boy, I think you really would give me an idea of one of the menu items that would really pop for you.
I will tell you, and gosh, it is hard to pick one. I would say the biggest fan favorite right now is got to be either our Chicken Lollipops or our whipped Feta. And people go nuts for this. I have seen people literally lick the plate on both of those dishes. So highly recommend.
A chicken lollipop. You got to describe that a little more for me.
Yeah. So they're little baby chicken wings almost, and they fall right off of the bone. The way that chef cooks them, they are tender, they are moist. And there's this hot honey sauce that he puts on top, and it is to die for. I have been known to go back in the kitchen with a spoon and just grab a little bit of that from time to time. But that is definitely plate licking worthy.
Well, I'm sure you do that because it's in the job description. It's something you have to do. So, of course, you do that. Now, if somebody wants to come visit you, where can they find the restaurant?
Yeah, we are located at 1710 Shoremead Road, which is where the new REI is in Mount Pleasant, right in front of the Haven at Indigo Square. So there's a big apartment complex right behind us. We're in that same plaza.
Today on the Mount Pleasant podcast, we're talking food, one of my all-time favorite subjects. And if you live in Mount Pleasant, you're around Mount Pleasant, you visit Mount Pleasant, you know there are so many good restaurants here. And the BENE Hospitality Group is responsible for what we're finding out. 3 of those restaurants, including Sommba Cocina that we're talking about now, with Karen Mennuti-Raju, who is with the BENE Hospitality. And Karen, let's step back a second, because Savi Cucina in the Mount Pleasant Town Center, that may be what you're best known for as you expand out. So for folks who aren't familiar with that restaurant, tell me a little more about Savi Cucina.
Yeah, thanks. So we actually just celebrated our 4-year anniversary. We opened in November of 2019, just before the COVID pandemic. So we kind of hit our stride as we had opened, and then a few months later had to quickly move to a takeout only model, and then eventually outdoor dining, and then limited distance inside. But Savi is named after my grandmother. Her name was Savinell, and she was from a very tiny town in Italy called Montemelone. Came to the States along with her parents to realize the American dream, and was just always an amazing cook. I grew up watching her cook all the time, so it was very natural, for me to kind of fall into place with that background. Savi is house-made, all from scratch Italian kitchen. We make all of our pastas in-house. We make our own mozzarella. We make all of our breads. We've got an amazing pastry chef. So really, it's a scratch kitchen, Italian, great comfort food, but also great chop house items. We've got an amazing ossobuco and short ribs that will just fall right off the bone. But you can always find your favorites there as well.
In 1996, it was Southern Women to Women magazine. Now it's Charleston Women magazine. Charleston Women is all about strong, capable, confident, hardworking, nurturing, determined, dedicated, and inspiring women. Our readers are business owners, entrepreneurs, mothers, sisters, wives, and grandmothers. Pick up your copy of Charleston Women magazine at Charleston area Harris Teeters and Food Lions. Charleston Women magazine. We are Charleston Women.
You're listening to the Mount Pleasant podcast.
Since you mentioned COVID, and I'm sad that we bring up that word because we're glad that's in the past, but let me take you off subject just a little bit, because obviously you weren't necessarily an established restaurant at that time, but you managed to do what you needed to do and came out the other side pretty strong. Was there 1 or 2 things? Was there a secret to doing that? How is it that you survived COVID so well?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a couple of silver linings in all of that. One of which is Italian food translates really well to takeout and delivery, right? So not all concepts have the ability to either reheat well or travel well and still maintain the integrity of the dish. So that was definitely one of the silver linings. I think, the biggest thing that so many business owners learned through COVID, 2 words I always say is you got to pivot, right? And you've got to change your business model quickly if you're going to survive. And then you've got to be you have to be creative in how you continue to connect with your guests in our minds. So, we had to get lean very quickly. I was answering the phones, taking takeout orders. My husband was delivering in the car. And we just ran with a very tight ship. But I'll tell you what it did do is it helped us really make some amazing connections in the community, which is why we love what we do every day.
And the community, you're all about that. At the Lights Up event, the annual town center tree lighting there, SAVI Cucina was there serving up wine. So let's explore the wine a little bit more. Vino goes with Italian food. Tell me some special things that you guys do in terms of wine at SAVI Cucina.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we've got an amazing wine list, number one. So we've got close to 40 different varieties by the glass. So if you just want to come in and enjoy one glass, you don't have to commit to a bottle. You still have quite a variety of options to choose from. We also are lucky enough to have what we call a preservation pour system. So we can offer some higher end wines by the glass that you may not be able to get elsewhere around town. In addition to that, we have some fun wine flights. So one of my favorites is the Bubbles flight that introduces you to Prosecco and Lambrusco and a sparkling rosé. So you don't have to pick one. You get to try all 3, figure out what's your favorite, and then kind of commit to a full glass. One of the other great things about us is we have a wine club. It's called the BENE Cellars Wine Club. It is actually going to span across all 3 restaurants. Right now, it's spanning across Savi and Samba. And it's a great way to, I always say, to get out of the house. It forces you out of the house at least once a month to come in for a tasting. And it introduces you to wines that you may not have ever tried before. I know it's pushed me out of my comfort zone to try things that I may have been a little hesitant to try. And I've found some new favorites with that.
And that seems to be, I'll just go back to my wife who loves her wine, but she knows what she likes and she kind of sticks to that. How is it that we break her or other people out of it? Obviously, the wine club's one way. I guess ordering a flight may open that experience.
For sure. I'll tell you, another one of my favorite flights is a Piedmont flight. So you get to try 3 different wines from the Piedmont region in Italy and kind of compare and contrast all 3 of them, figure out what you like. And it'll help you kind of figure out what your palate is. You may prefer something that's a little bit more bold and juicy, or you may prefer something that's a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit more spice on the palate. So it's a great way to explore. I think a lot of people get intimidated with wines, and especially Italian wines, that this offers kind of a risk-free way to taste through and find some new favorites.
Well, I guess that is perfect, because if I go to the wine store, I got to buy a bottle. This way I can sample a couple differents and find, I guess, the texture, the taste that's right for me.
That's exactly right. And that's the beauty of the wine club, is we taste you through. We'd actually just redesigned the club. So you'll be able to taste 9 different wines every month. Find the 2 that you love, and you go home with those 2 bottles. So it's really risk-free, that you're going to go home with something that you love, that you can enjoy in front of the fire or alongside dinner at the house.
So Karen, if somebody wants to be a member of the wine club, what's the steps they need to take?
Yeah, next time that you're in, feel free to talk to any one of us at any of the restaurants. We can help you get signed up. You can also visit our websites, go to the wine club, drop-down menu, find out all the information, and you can just sign up right there.
We are talking food today on the Mount Pleasant podcast. I'm Brian Cleary, and this is where the pages of Mount Pleasant magazine come alive. Mount Pleasant's known for a lot of things, and food is one. Some amazing restaurants, including with the BENE Hospitality Group. And Karen Mennuti-Raju is joining us today, talking about SAVI Cucina, also talking about Samba Cocina. And Karen, you mentioned that your husband is a chef. So at home in the kitchen, is that a challenge for you? Does he just say, get out, or do you guys share? How's that work? Tell me about that dynamic.
Yeah, he's actually a sommelier. So he's the wine guy. But we both are really, what I would say, I'm going to include myself, we're both really good cooks. We've been passionate about it. I might be more on the baking side. I'm passionate about breads and pastry, whereas he's probably more of the culinary side rather than pastry. But we both grew up in this industry, always surrounded by great food and beverage, and it kind of just became part of who we were as a couple, too. We love to host and entertain, and we always had folks at the house. Ty's super passionate about pizza and has been perfecting his pizza recipe for years, which I'm the benefit of, or I get the rewards of that as I get to taste my way through it. So lots of cooking at the house.
Well, Karen, you're somebody who's been in the restaurant business. Obviously, he has as well. You know your way around all that. So when you see on TV, because some people are getting their taste of restaurants or how they think they're run through, a Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay and things like that, are there positive things that people can take away from those shows? Or is it just, come on, this is TV, they're looking for drama? A lot of that doesn't happen here. Gosh,
great question. I think all of that it can, depending on the episode, can be very accurate. I think so for so many years, a lot of the food and foodie type shows on TV have really glamorized the industry, which is great. There are so many great things about the industry, but it's a tough industry. Our employees and our what we call family members work their butts off, and they work long hours. And I think about our guys and gals in the kitchen, and they're standing in front of these hot stoves, and it's a South Carolina summer where it's close to, no matter if you've got the AC blasting, it's close to 100 degrees, and they're pumping out food to the best of their ability to make people happy through food, wine, and hospitality. So that's where, the glamour kind of stops. But it is one of those things that I can tell you, everybody that works as part of the BENE family is passionate about what they do. They wouldn't be doing it if they didn't feel that way. And every dish that comes out of that kitchen has been, created. I like to romanticize it, but created with love. Those guys really care about what they're putting out. So I'd say, there's pros and cons, right? There's the entertainment factor, and I love that so many people are interested in it. It's a topic that everybody knows about because everybody goes out to eat, right? So it's something that everybody can kind of connect over. But yeah, there are some of those things that you just kind of shake your head and you're like, okay.
Well, great food you provide to the Mount Pleasant area, but the BENE Hospitality Group also employs a lot of people. So you're helping with the community. And when you said it, I just thought to myself, wow, I mean, the restaurant people I know, long hours, some rewards. You're not getting rich, but you can do well based on all that. But in terms of what you see, what do you think is the biggest challenge that you have in running these restaurants these days?
Oh gosh, that's a good question too. I think it's, and I think you'll always have this, but I think it's the constant rate of change, at least in the 4 years that we've been here as a business in Mount Pleasant between COVID and then seeing a little bit of a spike after that. But then with the economy and the challenges that the economy brings, it's consistently changing your model to really bring to the community what the community needs at that moment. So if it is, if we see that more takeout is where the community is telling us they want to go, it's up to us to either redefine the service model or find a different way. So for us, you can open a new restaurant and oftentimes the community will tell you what they want, whether it's that concept or if you need to tweak things a little bit. But to answer your question, I think it's just you got to be flexible in terms of how you react to whether it's economic conditions, pandemic conditions, and just always be ready to pivot. But I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
Well, you mentioned change, and I know all the time you're updating what's going on in the restaurants, which includes the menu. What do you say to that person when you change the menu and you took my favorite item off there? Why did you do that, Karen? Because I knew you did it purposely for me.
One thing that we always do, and so my favorite thing on the SAVI menu, anybody who's ever met me knows the eggplant parmesan is my absolute favorite. It will never go anywhere. That is a hill that I will die on, and I have made that very clear. So, and we always try to keep our guest favorites. We watch what we call product mix all the time in our restaurants to see what our customers' favorites are. We've been lucky enough to introduce them to some of their new favorites that they didn't know would become their new favorites. So that's the exciting thing about launching seasonally based menus, and we literally just did that last week. So we've got a lot of new things, but their old favorites are going to be on there too. What we love to do is keep track of what you do love. So it may be off of the fall winter menu, but it could be something that comes back in the spring or in next year's menu as well. So we listen to guest feedback, and we have brought back dishes on this fall menu that were customer favorites about a year and a half ago. So they'll get to see those again.
Well, speaking of new, let's break some news, at least for some people who are joining us for the Mount Pleasant podcast. I'm Brian Cleary. We're talking food today from the BENE Hospitality Group. Karen Mennuti-Raju is with us today. And Karen, understand there's now going to be a third BENE Hospitality Group restaurant in Mount Pleasant. And then third one will be what?
It's called Woodhaven Pizza. So it is New York City style pizza. It's going to be a very casual concept. Whenever I explain it, we've got a big TV wall that we're installing as we speak. So it's going to be a great place to come watch the game, bring the family, sit back, relax, enjoy a great pie. We're going to have wings. We're going to have salads. We have a full bar, great sandwiches. And we'll be open for lunch too. So if you've got a craving for a slice alongside a salad, we'll be able to satisfy that craving for you at lunch too.
So sell me on this pizza because, hey, I could open up and order to any number of the national chains. This pizza is going to be better because...
This pizza is going to be better because we've got one of our partners who's our chief culinary officer his family has been in this business since 1933. And they have worked on their dough recipe and tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. And he's even tweaked it a little bit more. He's actually a James Beard award-winning chef. So we feel confident that we'll be able to win over the palate. One of the great things about Mount Pleasant is we've got people from all over and a lot of population from the Northeast who miss that great New York City style pizza. So we're looking forward to bringing that here to them so they can have a little bit of a taste of home alongside of other offerings that we have.
Where will we be going to get our pizza, and when do you think that might be possible to start?
Yeah, hopefully very soon. So I'm hoping by the end of December, first part of January, we'll be able to open the doors there. We're actually located in the same shopping center as Samba, so it actually makes it really easy to find. We're in the same plaza as the REI, right next to our friends at Boxcar Betty's. At 1710, actually this one's 1701 Shoremead, but right in that same plaza.
Something to look forward to. And Karen, you're somebody who's been doing this for a while. Your husband's been in this business for a while as well. What is it that gets you excited, that wakes you up and going, yep, I'm ready to take on another day. Tell me something fun that you love about being with the BENE Hospitality Group.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's super easy for me. It's the people. And you would say the same thing. It's not only the people that we work with every day, but the people that we get to serve in the community every day. We are overwhelmed by the amount of support that we have seen from this community. We've had the opportunity to really turn what we call friends into family, and people that we may not have crossed paths with if we were in a different industry, but have had really the blessing of meeting some amazing folks that have become part of the family. And it's really cool to see them bring friends and family into the restaurants where we get to meet their extended family too. So that really is what gets us up in the morning and gives us the energy to get through another day.
As someone so involved in the restaurant industry as you do, you got to take some time away. And of course, so when you travel, and whether that's to Italy or Europe or somewhere, what is it that you're looking for in foods when you're outside of the Low Country area?
Yeah, I'll tell you, and that's really, we laugh because even before we opened restaurants, we were always, when we planned vacations, it was always around food, right? So it doesn't really matter where you stayed and what else you did, but every meal was accounted for before you left. Really just the local, we always like to immerse ourselves in the local cuisine and learn about new foods that we didn't even know existed, right? But oftentimes it comes back to simplicity is the best, no matter whether you're in Spain or Italy or the States, using fresh local ingredients, not making dishes too complex so that the ingredients shine on their own is what we love to look for. So obviously paired with a great glass of wine, that's what we're doing when we're not in the restaurants.
And it would seem then that your own personal taste like that carries over to your restaurant, because whether it's Samba or Savi, both your restaurants in a very positive way seem to be that simplistic kind of approach.
Yeah, we want you to be able to taste all the ingredients, not try to have to figure out, oh my God, there's 13 different things in this sauce. Because I know for me, I always try to replicate some things at home too. So that's the beauty of some of this cuisine, is it is simple that you can try to recreate it in your own house. Now you got to do dishes and you got to prep everything yourself. We're happy to do that for you if you want to come back and see us.
I'm with you there, because the cleanup is just the pass. I want good food, but I don't want to have to work for it. So that's why I need to either go to Samba or Savi Cucina. In terms of people finding your restaurants online, where do they need to go?
Yep, www.savicucina.com, super easy to find. And then www.sombacocina.com. And then Woodhaven, www.woodhavenpizza.com. And you'll get all of the scoop at any of those websites.
And so that's going to be Mount Pleasant's newest flavor. Then it'll come up. And again, you're hoping, if the end is December, if not, in 2024, we're going to see a new pizzeria in Mount Pleasant.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Thank you for expanding my palate. And I know my wife's wine list has expanded at Savi Cucina, and it'll go on from there. So on behalf of all of our stomachs and palates, let me just pass along a huge thank you, Karen.
Truly our pleasure. Thanks for allowing us to do it.
It's the BENE Hospitality Group. Check out any one of their 2 restaurants going on now, and we look forward to them. They're expanding not only food, but also economically helping out Mount Pleasant. It's what it's all about. As Karen mentioned, they love being a part of the community, and we love being a part of the community as well, and bringing you great people in the community like Karen to be a part of the Mount Pleasant podcast. I'm feeling hungry now. Time to go eat. I'm Brian Cleary. Thanks so much for joining us for this edition of the Mount Pleasant podcast, where the pages of Mount Pleasant magazine come alive.
Thanks for spending your time with the Mount Pleasant podcast, your community, your podcast. Listen to past and future episodes at mountpleasantpodcast.com.